Let me start again. Brothers and sisters, I would like to welcome you all to today's Consensusism study group. Indeed, the Consensusism study group welcomes you all to today, the 10th of February's Consensusism study group meeting. So welcome. We are pleased that through the efforts of Brother Pigeon, who sends our meeting documents very far and wide, that more and more people are joining. So I'd like to welcome you all, brothers and sisters, sisters and brothers. And so these Saturday meetings are an extension of our Thursday meetings. Our Thursday meetings, we discuss solely philosophy and ideology. And we discuss the radical Pan-African type, which is based on the book of Osagyefo for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana. And on Saturdays, inspired by our own Sister Ida, we started this Saturday meetings. And the purpose of these Saturday meetings are to initiate and continue conversations around the unification of the continent, because we realized through Sister Ida's inspiration that we don't openly talk about the unification of the continent, and yet the unification of the African continent is fundamental to our strategic security as a continent and as a people. So the purpose of the Saturday meetings are to get us to talk about the unification of the continent. And we give the example of China, which is about 1.4 billion people, but they have one government. Africa, on the other hand, with about 1.3 billion people or thereabouts, has 55, yes, you heard me, 55 sovereign governments. So, I mean, clearly something's wrong somewhere. And the purpose of these Saturday meetings are to address some of these. So we'd like to welcome you all formally once again. There are about 15 of us in the meeting room right now. And we will listen to a news roundup from the continent, which Brother Pigeon will lead. And then after that, we shall follow it up with some presentations and a discussion. Brother Pigeon, over to you.
Yeah, greetings, comrades, and thank you, Brother Kwame, and to our we appreciate your presence. Don't take it for granted. Of course, this is for us to discuss our issues, talk about our issues as Africans, and basically to also be able to build that consciousness and togetherness in terms of thought, so that we can have unity of thought for action. So thank you very much. As Brother Kwame said, this is an extension of our Thursday class on philosophy, which also touched on the need for liberation, unification, and development. So without wasting my time, it's already 11 minutes past time. As usual, we've been going through this magazine of late that's called The Continent, and I've been able to do my best to share today's copy to all members present in our broadcast list. And I members present in our broadcast list were able to go through this copy. And as I've said, I've also shared a subscription link so that you can subscribe to this magazine via your email so that you get continuous update from your side. Today, the continent is having their 150th edition. So it means they've done their edition for the last 150 weeks. That's almost over many years. So let's check what's inside the continent for today. We go straight to, of course, they posted their editors, the team of editors, but we'll go straight to the content. You start with Liberia. We call it a very slippery wear, or wear. In a tale better than TV, a man purporting to be a former president, George Weah, brother, allegedly fleeced the Ukrainian energy minister over $4 million. Liberian Daily Observer reports that Christian Deeply Weah, no relation to George, reportedly promised to sell crude oil from an existent oil block to engineer acting for Kiev. So to clean the deal, where reportedly forged an Iberian exploration license, but also made its own version to seal that. In Namibia, the president died in office. No drama ensued. As it has been reported here, it is very clear that I request members to kindly unmute themselves, not unmute themselves, and those who are co-hosts can help him mute anybody who is not in the chat list. So Hague-Genborg story is intertwined with that of Namibian quest for freedom from the genocidal and colonial and then racist South African rule. So the story of the president of Namibia, we all know about that. And we go again to the Ghanaian story, which is colonialism, stolen artifacts. The Fowler Museum at the University of California in the US returned Ghanaian artifact that it has held since 1965 to their rightful owners, the Asante Hene, the BBC reports. The items, which include an elephant tail whisk, a golden necklace, 2 golden stools, 2 bracelets, and a chair, was stolen by British soldiers in the 1874 from the Asante Hene Manhia Palace in Kumasi, in what was then the Asante Kingdom. In Egypt, we have El Mexique goes global. In the latest gaffe, octogenarian US President Joe Biden referred to Egyptian President Abdul Fattah el-Sisi as the president of Mexico. Just see that. Biden might be onto something though. To evade government censors, Egyptians often say El Sisi instead of El Sisi when criticizing their own thin-skinned president. It translates as the Mexican, but still sounds a lot like El Sisi. On Zimbabwe, new one-party state just dropped. Of course, Zimbabwe ruling ZANU-PF party now holds 2/3 majority in the parliament after the by-election in 6 constituencies. The seat fell vacant after one Sengezo Sabangu declared himself as Secretary General of the largest opposition party called Coalition for Change, and recalled 6 of the party MPs. Suspicion saw that Shabangu was a covert ZANU-PF agent who took over advantage of the rift within CCC. Of course, in this story, Brother Morgan Kominchu is one of our constant member here. He's working closely with the oppositions in Zimbabwe to work on something. I'll follow up that with him. When you go to South Africa, we talk about electricity. As usual, South Africa have been having serious electricity issues. So Ramaphosa makes vague noises and Nigerians go dark. In his State of the Nation address, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said that the end of his country's infamous electricity load shedding is within the reach. It remains unclear how long an arm one needs to reach it. It has been 15 years. Meanwhile, in Nigeria on Sunday, several cities, including Abuja, went dark when the national power grid recorded its first collapse in 2024. The grid collapsed frequently, 9 times in 2019, 4 times in 2020 and 2022, and 2 in 2021. In Kenya, it's also still collapsing, and we have our brothers here in South Africa who can also talk that. Now, going to Malawi, we have a story about Gregory Gondwe, a Malawian journalist who is pictured up here, who is in hiding after being told of plan to arrest him or worse. So there's a story of the Malawian. And then in Nigeria, there's a food price protest which hit 3 states. Hundreds of women and young people took to the street in the Niger, Kano, and Kogi state of Nigeria to protest high food prices. Nigerian inflation is now at 30%. It's mostly driven by skyrocketing food prices. The protests in the 3 northern states have rattled the government. So that's going on, protest over food. In DRC Congo, we are talking about M23 rebels don't want to take Goma. Fighters of M23 movement surrounded the town of Sake on Wednesday, forcing thousands of civilians to flee into Goma, about 10 kilometers away. This led to speculation that the rebels are gunning for Goma takeover. M23 denies that this is their goal, but in 2012, they did briefly take Goma, the city of 2 million people in the North DRC Congo. Of course, we also go to Malawi. We see a warm welcome to the warm heart. On Wednesday, citizens of SADC and COMESA members still do not need visa to visit Malawi unless their countries impose visa restrictions on Malawi. This is also going on. In Madagascar, we see the story of a tortoise. They're saying a tortoise returned after 600 years. I'm wondering where it was. Once upon a time, two kinds of giant tortoise roamed Madagascar, swimming and drifting with floating vegetarians 6 million years ago. One kind moved to Seychelles, where it evolved into today's Aldabra giant tortoise. So the story of tortoise is so interesting. The giant, which can grow to 100 years and over 350 kg, have since hatched 152 others and are happily roaming in Madagascar again. So even the tortoise can return back to Africa. That's a very interesting story. So we have the cybercrime issue, which the defenders of press freedom in Africa have warned the United Nations that its international cybercrimes treaty could be used to punish journalists for doing their job. The UN is preparing a treaty formerly known as Comprehensive International Convention on countering the use of information and communication technology for criminal purposes. It's meant to protect people and prevent crime. There's a story here in Sudan. There's a massacre. They say massacres will not be treated, as it has been recorded that ordinary Sudanese are responding to the crisis with humanitarian efforts, but this week their efforts were kneecapped by blocked communications. It's clear that a Sudanese in Egypt who is called Amen Abdul Karim has been trying to check if his family in Omdurman received the money he had sent them recently. But appears that this is not going through due to communication hitches. The climate change is discussed here. Basically, it's the deadly climate milestone pass. The world is hotter, the people are dying, livelihood are being destroyed. Africa continues to pay the highest price, and the rich are dancing all the way to their offshore banks. This is a story captured about the climate issues in Africa. Then when you go to Macky Sall, latest choice in less murky when seen through oil and gas. The president's official reason for postponing the upcoming election has been met with suspicion. Analysis says, follow the money. So the story has been covered here, where Macky Sall's decision to postpone Senegal's presidential election left many people or many of his international allies stammering for a response, which the country, of course, was one of the African strongest democracies, but Sall bowed to pressure not to run again after, that was in July, after serving his 2 terms. All seems set for the people to elect their successors from a pool of 20 candidates on February. Then he held another thought, which is the ECOWAS initially put out a statement asking Senegalese authorities to set a new date, apparently agreeing with Sall's Saturday decree. But the bloc made a quick about time, issuing the second statement calling for the return to the original electoral timetable. So Macky Sall actually postponed the elections, and this is going on in this coverage. It has been covered extensively on what's going on over there. And also we have this coverage that has been touched here on European brewed its migrant crisis. Decades before today's migrants boarded small boats to Europe to take their job, European fishing ships were trawling West African waters, taking food and jobs for the locals. And they are still there up to date. So this is also the story of how the Europeans are actually controlling some parts of Africa. They said 3 decades ago, people in Spain and Senegal ate about the same amount of fish. So this is also a story bit covered. I will not go extensively in that, but it's clearly covered here. Then the Festa Festival, I think it's the Festa Festival that's taking place in Kenya, is well covered here. A gathering of African storytellers and innovators, be part of the story and shape what next for African media. And this is now what will be going on in Kenya on Festa, I think. National Museum of Kenya, yes. It will be going on 21st to 22nd February. And there's what has been organized. In football, there's a part of AFCON for the ages. Teams have battled temperatures that have threatened to touch 40 degrees Celsius. The tournament is happening early in the year when the European clubs prefer not to do not to let their top players to spend months away. I think the finals are tomorrow, and we are waiting to see that. So AFCON has been covered here extensively in this magazine. And in the last part here, it talks about the highs and lows of Elephant supporters. But basically, these are what are the key stories coming in. So without wasting my time, that's what I'll end it there. But there's a lot in here. Of course, let me check this part. The revolution is neither dead nor done. Egypt's controllers will do well for themselves to let the poor have their music, if not jobs. So basically, I've shared this magazine prior to many people in their inbox, and in case there's anything they will maybe wish to raise for us to focus on later, we'll be free to do that. But Chair, back to you.
Thank you, Brother Pigeon, for going through the news. The central question for us, brothers and sisters and brothers, is what has the news we have heard on the continent, how is it related to a liberated, united, and developed continent? I mean, reading the news and listening to the news, how do these news advance our unification, liberation, and development? You see, because the news that we hear and read, this is the continent, must, in our view, in the view of consensusism, touch on liberation, unification, and development. And what we are hearing, I don't know what you think, but what we are hearing, I don't think is talking about that at all. So let's hear from others. What do you think? What do you think about what you have heard? And is there a news item that you think should have been aired or written about that hasn't, that you think it's important? Please share with us. Sister Ida's hand is up, so let's hear from Sister Ida.
I was going to say there were two things that if you'd asked us to talk about, I would have spoken about. One was the fact that I love this thing about gold from the Niger being stopped by Ethiopia, because it was so much, and they don't use me. I beg your pardon.
Yeah, this is 100 million. Sister, this is 100 million. Is it dollars worth of gold?
Yes, and I love that they actually stopped it, and that they told the Niger about it, and that then Niger closed down all its gold mines and stuff, because it just shows that, as someone said, that people look at what the colonialists have been doing, the amount of gold and stuff, minerals they've been taking out without people even hearing about it. So I thought that was a really, really big story, and I just love that. To me, it was a sign that brothers were working with brothers rather than watching.
Even sisters were working with sisters.
Whatever, people were working as a group, and I thought that was wonderful.
Brothers, sisters, and brothers were working with sisters and brothers.
I beg your pardon. We're working as a group. I managed to stop such, and also tell the world that this was going on. So that bit I really loved. And the other thing that I thought we should be paying a close eye on is food prices in Nigeria, which was mentioned in the report. But it looks like things have actually doubled just within 6 months to a year, and that there's going to be real trouble if we aren't careful. So I think we all need to be looking out about that, food insecurity and stuff like that. So those were the two things.
Thank you. On the first one, so the gold from Niger, the question then is, how many such shipments have been leaving the continent? And
exactly.
Niger is not the only gold producer. When you ask lions to guard your chickens, what do you expect? And here on the continent, we have a lot of investment. The level of foreign investment. In fact, a lot of the foreign investment in Africa is in our mineral resources, as we know. And And Ghana is an example. You know, our gold is mined and it's taken out of the continent. And then when they take the gold out, then they tell us how much the value was. So it's not as if we are even valuing the gold ourselves. I mean, neocolonialism is gone mad. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, neocolonialism is mad. I mean, the system must be dismantled because it's not serving us at all. And no, thank you for that. Now, on the question of food, I mean, Nigeria has a capacity to feed itself and feed others, so there shouldn't be food price rises in Nigeria. But this is either it could be linked with the closure of the border, because you know in Ghana also a lot of food comes from the north, from Burkina Faso and up there, like tomatoes into Ghana. It could be that the closing of the border has also stopped food from coming down from Niger, and that could also be part of the reason. I don't know, but it certainly may have something to do with the.
It does. That is part of the problem, actually.
Is it?
I've had reports on that. Yeah, it's part of the problem.
Right. It doesn't surprise me. Okay, so thank you very much.
I think also that maybe they should take a leaf out of Ethiopia's book and they should stop food being sent abroad. After all, half the yam that comes to Britain, for instance, is from Nigeria, even though some of it says Ghana yam, but a lot of it is from Nigeria. And I just think we ought to be working with each other as a way forward. So.
I agree with you. Right, let's hear from DJ Mr. P, who has his hands up. After that, we go to Brother Joseph and then Brother Rinomi in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother.
Sorry, I might have muted you. Please unmute. Please unmute. I was trying to lower your hand. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Brother DJ P, Mr. P. You can start again.
Yeah. No probs. Because I did unmute, but yeah, I seemed as though I was muted back. No problem. I just wanted to recap on what's been said so far, and there's one story I want to touch on. But going back to this situation in Nigeria with the food inflation, I mean, honestly, I mean, for a country as big and economically powerful as Nigeria, I just hold my head. I don't even shake it anymore. I just hold my head to stop it from vibrating, because, you know, you've got a massive country, you've got so much arable land, and the people are paying through the nose just to eat. And I just don't see, to me, it's just highly illogical. It makes no sense whatsoever. I'm pleased to hear regarding Ethiopia that African gold is staying on African soil. I'm very pleased about that. And you can see a certain amount of Ubuntu happening there. There's Ubuntu in action.
Sorry, can I check something? Brother Pidgin, are you sharing your screen with us? I'm just making sure that.
Who?
Sorry, I was asking Brother Pidgin if he was sharing his WhatsApp with us, because
no, not WhatsApp. Sorry, there's this new story on the gold in the discovery of copper in Zambia. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for that.
Yeah, that's all right. I just wanted you to be sure that you were sharing your screen. If that wasn't your intention, that's all. Yes, but DJ, please continue. Sorry about the interruption.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Pigman has just brought up that situation about copper in Zambia, because I wanted to touch on that as well, actually. But yeah, I'm pleased to hear that Ethiopia is working with. Was it Burkina Faso? Was it or Niger? Right. I'm pleased to hear that African gold is remaining on African soil. So that's a bit of Ubuntu happening there. My main gripe is what's going on in Senegal. And I'm really quite hacked off, to be honest. I'm putting it very mildly, about Macky Sall and his antics. I'm sick and I'm tired of his nonsense. He's clearly a puppet for the West, and they need to be very careful in Senegal, because they've been warned already about a coup. So with all the nonsense that's been happening the last couple of weeks, And already in the protests, one person is dead, right? And there was no need for that. So Macky really needs to get the hell out, and he needs to release Ousmane Sonko and allow so-called democracy to happen in Senegal. I'm just really hacked off about that situation. If I was to see him, I'd probably knock him out. Seriously, you're just such a washout. You know, it's clear that you're bending over for Macron and France, and it just sickens me to see African puppets behaving in this way, and they're calling themselves democratic. Democracy where? Where's the democracy? There's no democracy. So it just peeves me to see that happening. What's happening in Senegal, and going back to Zambia, there was a story a few years back about how Zambia went and sold their copper mines, and the people that bought the copper mines, they got them literally at a snip. I think it was silly money they paid for them, and they were able to pay back those copper mines in a very short period of time, and they've been since then making tons and tons and tons of money at the expense of Zambia. Well, the lesson there is you don't sell your assets. You know, you'd think that the government in Zambia had more than 3 brain cells between them to work that out. So it just disappoints me. Again, it disappoints me that you've got African countries that can stand on their own 2 feet. They have what they need to stand on their own 2 feet. God has given every African country something. We've been blessed. Each country's been blessed with something, and yet we want to be there with our begging bowl to the West, outstretching our hands, and wonder why nobody respects us, why nobody wants to have anything to do with us apart from to come and get what they can get from underneath our soil. And I'll land my plane there for now.
Well, thank you very much. But I would then in turn question you and ask you, why are you surprised by the actions of neocolonialism? What you are seeing in Senegal, what you are seeing, what you saw in Zambia, are basically neocolonialist governments, and that is how they behave. So
correct. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm just disgusted. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I think we must go beyond disgust. Wouldn't you agree? We need to organize ourselves.
I'm being very polite.
Yeah. We need to organize ourselves and take the electoral war to the liberals and the conservatives. I mean, the liberals, the liberals, at least some of them we can bring to our side, because some of the liberals do not like what is going on, and so we can bring some of them to our side. But the far right liberals, we may not get onto our side. But
what do we do with them? What do we do with them?
The Pan-Africanists on the left have. We need also to organize ourselves and fight the electoral war and win a political office. Our brother who was here the last time is not here today. Adaisibo, you recall. He told us that we need to win at least one country that is for us, and then with that country we can then launch from there. Like Ghana, the moment Ghana became independent in 6th March 1957, Ghana became the stronghold for the left, and then from there we were able to fight to liberate the rest of the continent. So we need an African country, one anyway, that we can liberate. And once we liberate that, we can then use that as a springboard. So the left really, the left, we really have to think through, go beyond being disgusted, being upset, being angry, and so on, because those emotions are not going to help us. What we need is nominalism, clarify. Anyway, thank you for your for your news
submissions. Yeah.
submission.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Let's go to Brother Joseph, please. Thank you.
Yes, good day, all, and especially Brother Kwame.
Thank you.
I want to respond to your question about if the news that we heard, if it is consistent with the liberation, enabling or assisting the liberation of the continent. I think not quite, but I would still prefer to hear some of the things that are happening on the continent from an African point of view, albeit they may have a new colonialist kind of orientation. Because in absence of nothing, then we have to conjure up things in our head. Notwithstanding that, I would suggest that in addition to that kind of news, we have some critical edition of what we think is key that have happened. For instance, there was much conversation about Ruto's engagement with the CIA, the secret visit. I mean, the visit of the CIA head of CIA, and the question what they were really discussing and all of that, and also the departure of the 3 Sahel countries from ECOWAS, and also the fact that there seems to be some issues with Algeria, and then Morocco is coming in the fray with by giving the Sahel countries a door to the Atlantic Ocean. So these are some of the things I think we could be discussing in addition to knowing the other aspect. But I want to also say that one of the pieces of news I just got as I was coming on is that the Nigerian women basketballers have qualified for Paris this year, 2024. And I think we need to celebrate those kind of victories because it would help to energize our confidence or help to build our confidence. I'm so happy for the Nigerian women. Just in terms of adding to the news, as I said last week, we had the Ghanaian president coming to Grenada. Which I felt so uncomfortable. I felt so, but I know it's if I'm saying that, I'm saying how Mr. P is disappointing, but it sometimes irritates you when I ask on the radio station, on the media in Grenada, who is advising our government? Because no way. We should be inviting this character to Grenada based on his role in trying to destabilize the Sahel country. And another thing is one of the other things. But there was a point I want to go back to. Oh yeah, one of the things that irritates me is 2 Nigerian professors, international relations, on discussing, I think, Arise, a program out of Nigeria, and they're talking about how the Sahel countries that left, it would hurt them and all that kind of thing because they are poor countries. And this is another thing. If the Sahel countries are so poor, why is France? Why have France been ripping them off? And also, why is still the United States still there? I think these are some of the issues we could discuss going forward. Thank you very much for now.
Thank you very much, Brother Joseph. The issues you raise are all pertinent. The question I still raise is, how does this all tie up with our liberation, unification, and our development? Because ultimately, the purpose of the liberation of Africa, liberation, economic liberation, that is that we develop, but the unification of Africa is necessary for its total liberation, because we can't have economic liberation unless the continent is unified, and then when it's unified, then can it develop. So liberation is important, but we think that unification is even more central, more important. You see, because all these 55 governments on African soil, 50, what are they doing for us? They're not really doing anything for the people of Africa. They're just there helping themselves, helping their families, where they come from, and the imperialists. That's what they are doing. They're not really putting into practice the supreme law, which is the welfare of the people. So the unification of Africa is central, and unless we unify the continent, liberating it economically will be hard. Political liberation, which our parents fought for, the whole point of political liberation was so that we'll be free to make our own economic decisions. So that economic liberation was the goal of the political liberation. Nkrumah fought for 10 years, from 1947 when he arrived in the Gold Coast to 1957. Next month, 6th March, we'll be celebrating another independence of Ghana. So for 10 years, he fought for political liberation. And he made it very clear that the purpose of that, the reason you want to be politically free is so that you can take your own decisions. You see, but the problem we have now is that having got political independence, the governments that have come into office have replaced the colonial governments. Our own brothers and sisters, our own uncles and aunties are now those in office working with the same imperialists, pursuing the same policies that continue to impoverish us. So that is a problem we have. To look our uncles straight in the face and say, you are the enemy of our people. You are my enemy because you are working with imperialists to continue to rob Africa. So unification of Africa is central. And what I think we are saying is, the ordinary people of Africa have to start this. This is what we are saying, that the ordinary people of Africa are not, we don't think they are enough discussing the unification of the continent. And I think we can understand why. They are
correct.
They are hungry. They are preoccupied with just trying to live, trying to
survive,
to make ends meet, survive. So they haven't got time now to be discussing big things. However, we need to bring this to their attention, that it is the unification of the continent that is central. The Sahel states, Burkina Faso, Mali, okay, so they've left. But some of us do not see the Pan-Africanism in anything they have done so far. They are not calling out to other African countries, let's unite, like Gaddafi was doing. They are not, I don't know, maybe somebody has heard something. But you see, unless the continent unites, any government, however strong you are, you can be taken out by the imperialists. They will poison you, or they will find someone, they'll find a traitor who is ready to take money and kill you, stab you, whatever. So no African government by himself or herself, however strong you are, can maintain and develop yourself unless the rest of the continent is in with you. You see, so yeah. Anyway, let's hear from brother Anton. We've heard from you. So no other hands are up except
we need to start.
Yes, that's brother DJ P, Mr. P. But can you hold on, brother DJ, Mr. P? Brother Pigeon, I believe you have a presentation for us. Is that correct?
Yes, I'll be touching on a few issues in regards to our class today. Then I'm also seeing a member from Congo who might be cut off anytime. He might get out anytime.
Yeah, hold on. I think Brother Renumi also had his hand up earlier. Let him speak and then you can do the presentation. Brother Renumi, react to the news, please. Thank you. But you're not stable, Brother Renumi. You keep your thing keeps going on and off. I hope you're okay. Yeah, carry on, Brother Renumi.
Okay, yeah. Solidarity, greetings. Yeah, I'm going to react on the few areas. Let me maybe quickly do a run through of what the news angle, like the chair rightly questioned. So we're going to talk about the choice of the magazine we are using. The Nigeria as a big country and big economy, the AFCON football, and then the ideology of Pan-Africanism. Are we leftist or what are we? And then so I will quickly go over. Yeah, this magazine, the Continent magazine, this, because if we want the news angles to be reflective of our desire, to be inspiring, we need to be conscious of the choice of the magazine we review or we use their news item, because a magazine is driven by the editorial policy. Or so if is the Continent magazine, is it in any way tilted towards Pan-Africanism, or is just another one of those magazines? Because that is where their news item, their angles of news coverage can actually be of help or relevance to whatever we are doing if we are conscious of the selection. If we select based on their content, their ideology, and their position on issues, so that's where we can get what we need to get inspired by their news. From what I've listened so far, it sounded like a regular news, just any other magazine. It doesn't in any way, it doesn't even sound, I can't find the angle where they are covering from. And maybe I've not read, because I've not read their story anyway. So yeah, that's one. Two, Nigeria is unfortunately not as big country as we had seen it. Even if it's a big country, it doesn't have a big economy, because we virtually do not produce anything in this country. As of today, we are not a productive country. We're just big by size. So we're big by size does not make us a big economy. We're just big dumping markets for other people that have something to sell. And the only thing we offer people is also cheap labors. That's where our people are always jumping out to go and provide jobs at the cheapest rates, another part of the economy. So, and that is not in any way making us a big country. We're just, and then if you link that to liberation, we are not productive, so we are not in any way. Yeah, the number of countries that we are, the chair was talking about, whether we are 54, 55, or sometimes they even count us to be as 58. All these numbers are in the interest of the imperialists who draw these funny lines dividing empires and people that were supposed to belong to one place, divided them into several places. So it is the African borders lines are in the interest of the imperialists who drew those lines, and that is what they are profiting from today. So for a Nigerian to cross into Togo, Seme, we have to pay some money at the border. We have to pay all this. So that is the gimmicks of those lines is just for the imperialists to make money from people crossing them either ways. So now the AFCON ball, then maybe the football too. Yeah, football is something that really energize some of us. Those of us in Nigeria here, we are always hysterical when it comes to football, especially when our national team is playing. And then playing on the continental level, there are also some countries that once Nigeria is paired against them, then a lot of emotion, a lot of sentiments are going to be expressed. The first on the list is any match between Nigeria and Ghana. There are a lot of emotions attached to it because Ghana is an arch rival of Nigeria in so many ways, and football is really an opportunity for them to pitch. Another country is Cameroon. Once it's Nigeria versus Cameroon, it is another big issue, another sentiment. And of course, South Africa is another rival that Nigeria would do anything we want to beat. I mean, the build up to the match this week, there are a lot of editorials, a lot of write-ups, a lot of sentiments. How South Africa is doing very well in some area, and we are not doing. And so Nigerians see that we don't need to allow them to beat us in the football again. For me personally, at a point, I'm indifferent because I really wish I'm indifferent about who wins the match, whether Nigeria or South Africa, because I see South Africa at least being more responsible to African cause as of today than my country, Nigeria. So at least for Nigeria, Africa, South Africa they probably do something. They might be doing some things wrong, but they are still doing some things right. For example, South Africa they've taken themselves away from their initial colonial economic bloc by being one of the BRICS nations, which are countries that are really trying to pull their weight in spite of all the disturbance, all the confusion of the Western economy trying to put them somewhere. So for South Africa to be a strong member of BRICS shows they are pulling some weight. They are not taking directives from America and US and the European countries just cheapishly. Of course, South Africa's story is still not. It cannot be said to be at least is a rainbow country with a lot of color, not purely dominated by black people like other African countries. So like us here in Nigeria. Sure. But then that's these are things we need. These are things we need to look for. At least South Africa is making some definite position. There are businesses. There are a lot of South African businesses doing well even in Nigeria that we are so jealous of what they are doing, but we don't have a choice because if you want quality, like in telecom, MTN is sometimes more reliable than our own Globalcom because their services are more dependable than the Globalcom service. So some of us, we opted for them. The pay TV, most of the pay TV that Nigeria tries to run, they are not successful. While DSTV, South Africa DSTV is doing very well in Nigeria. Even in banking, South African banks are also here pulling some weight in so many areas, but I'm not sure we Nigerians have any good business enough to even take out of the country, except to our banks that are declaring profits in spite of no real-time economy that they are running. I don't know what. So that's my reaction.
Yeah, thank you very, very much, brother Inumi, for your observations. Brother Carrington, I understand you had your hand up and I missed it. Sister Ida was
No.
texting.
I think we'll go to the presentation so that we don't take too much time, and then I'll put my things together. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you.
So you're okay, yeah? You don't want to talk now?
Yes,
fine.
For now, it's okay. Yeah.
That's fine. Brother Pigeon, proceed with the presentation.
Well, thank you, Brother Kwame. Greetings to you all. Of course, it's a pleasure to see one of the brother from Congo, who is with us here, Brother Uraga, whom actually will also be given some small opportunity to explain to us whether the war in Congo is tribal war or whatever, so-called tribal war, because there's a lot of the story that's not in the public in regards to that war. So I appreciate his presence. Basically, as a startup is that the agenda of today, or the topic of today, is unity in diversity. We actually acknowledge the presence and existence of Africans in various forms and languages that actually we share in the continent. But our main purpose is, can we find actually unity in that diversity that we share? And that is what we are interested today to discuss. And I'll share briefly a bit in regards to actually the so many so-called languages we speak as a continent. And then also take deeply to the guiding questions for these discussions, because they are guiding questions for this discussion. Then we'll open up for people to share their thinking in regards to those guiding questions. So briefly, as I share this with you, in Africa we have classification of languages, which of course belongs also to communities or so-called ethnic groupings or nationalities. And there are so many. The number of nationalities or tribes in Africa cannot be estimated in ones. We have close to over 2,000 to 3,000 tribes. For example, Congo alone has almost close to 500. Nigeria now has so many of them. But basically, to take you very fast on some of the languages which belongs to bigger ethnic groupings in Africa, we have the Niger-Congo people, who of course have the West Atlantic people. We have the Northern Wolof, Serer, Serin, Fulani people, the Serer. We have the Mande people in the western part. We have the Soninke, Malinke people, the Bambara people. We have also the Gur people in the Senufo area. We have Wuna people, Kasena people. Those are actually In that level, you have the Kwa people in Africa. They also involve the Logba people, the Tafi people. We have the Yoruba people, the Igala people. We have the Idoma people. We have the Benue Congo people, who belongs to the Plateau part, the Kiambati people, the Kua people, the Kari people. We have the Janji people, the Kuroma people. If you go all along in my list, you have the Adamawa Eastern people, which include the Tula people, the Dia people, the Waja people. You go also down, you get the eastern part of it. You have the Manja people, the Mbaka people. You have Afro-Asiatic African groupings, which you have the Hausa people, Gwandara people. We have the Mober, we have the Bolewa, we have the Kotoko group, we have the Bata group. So these, I'm just trying to show the groupings in very fast to know where we are or who we are. We have the Bata Margi people, we have the Zumu people. If you go down, we have the Daba people, we have the Gider people, Momobi people. In the northern Kushas, you have the Beja people. The central Kushatik, we have the Bongo people, the Kamiri people, the Awia people. In eastern Kushatik, we have the Sao Afar people, the Somali people, the Gala people, the Gitore people, the Burji people. In western Kushatik, we have the Jangero people, the Bofa people. You go to southern Kushas, we have also people there. The Khoisans, we have the Sandawe and Hassa, the Charinel people, we have the Nubian people. If you check them, the Charinel people, we have the Nile Nubian people, we have the Nubian, the Fahiri, the Ling people, we have the Kandur people. If you go all along, we also have people in different parts. As you can see, these are Nile people. We have the Western Nile, where we have even the Eastern Nile, people like the Teso, the Karamanjong, the Tuk, the Maasais are here. The Southern people like the Nandi, the Suk and Togona, these are part of Kenyan people. In those other regions, we have the Central Sudanic people. So I'm taking you to a list of who we are in diversity as an African people. We have the Nilo-Sahara people, the Songhai people, the Saharan people, the Maban people, the Fur people, the Charinile people. We have the Tegali group in the grouping of Niger Kordofanian people. We have the Tologi group, the Tutum group. We have the Bantu people in the Douala, the Bafa, the Bafia, the Sanaga, the Kaka. Bantu is a group, it's a big grouping in Africa. We have so many groupings of Bantu people in Africa. We have the Swahili people, the Pogolo people, the Lunyi people, the Lozi people, the Tumbuka people. And we have many groupings of these people that some have not covered clearly. But in a nutshell, these are the people we have in Africa. This is just a brief of who we are in diversity. Apart from that, we actually now come back to the question of this discussion today, that when you check on the unity of Africa, or unity in diversity, there are a few key things that we need to actually think about. And these are the guiding principles or the guiding questions to this. What to us is the definition of unity? What unity do we envision in diversity? Does it mean unity in the context of Africa, diverse population? Or does it imply complete assimilation of respectful coexistence or respectful coexistence of Africans? What do you envision as African? Do you envision assimilation of African groupings or respectful coexistence of Africans? Then we need to go back again to ask the question of historical challenges. We explore the colonial legacies, the role in dividing African groupings. We need to check on fostering tribal tensions, what that did to us from the historical context. We need also to go further and check on the contemporary dynamics, analyze the current state of tribalism, and this is what I'll bring, of course, also Brother Raga to discuss what's the analysis of the coexistence of tribes or nationalities in Congo and how do this might be behind the fueling of war in Congo. We check also the other aspects of us developing the role of individual and institution. We explore how individuals, civil society or organizations or education institutions can promote the unity and understanding of what you want. What about the role of technology? Is there space for technology like this, what you are having today, Zoom, to bridge this gap and bring us together instead of dividing us more? So basically, these are the highlights of our conversation today. And I might not actually have like a specific contribution to this, but based on what's going on in Africa, for example, in a context like in Kenyan situation, where there have been post-election violences in the so-called electoral processes, where one community or one ethnic group or nationality feel like the other ethnic group or nationality do not want them to have a space for leadership. And there's what you call the superiority or dominance of the majority ethnic groupings in the country that would want to control resources and want to control the existence of a country forever. Is this doing some harm to us as Africa towards attaining our unification? And how do we handle this, where we are still struggling within countries level, so-called countries level? We are still struggling with nationality conflict, the tribal conflicts. This tribe still want to fight this tribe. And we are looking at a bigger picture of how do we bring the continent together. So what are the basic ways, or what can we do actually as a people to find a way we can bridge these gaps and bring that unity of African diversity so that we can create our thinking to be beyond the so-called nationality or tribal conflicts within a country, but think of how do we fight together to have a unified African continent. Chair, if you permit me, maybe I'll then maybe ask Brother Oraga in 10 minutes to share with us the tribal context in the war in Congo. Is it more of affiliated to this, what you call ethnicity and national conflict? Then now we can maybe go back to you, Brother Chair, so that you can get on the next conversation. Thank you. Oh, if you permit me, Chair, and then Oraga, can you unmute yourself and proceed?
Yes, let's hear her. Yeah. Oh, her.
Oraga, you're not muted. You're not unmuted. So can you unmute yourself?
Okay.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Uraga. I'm from Congo, DRC. But I'll excuse myself because my English is not that good. When the place that I will fail, Brother Pigeon will help me.
Don't worry.
Talk in Swahili.
Don't worry, you're my brother. Don't worry.
Pigeon will help me, yeah.
Brother Orangan, if you want to present in Swahili and so that Brother Pigeon interprets on your behalf, that is great. You want to do that?
Yes.
Your English is good, brother. We understand you loud and clear.
Yeah.
We can hear you loud and clear, my friend.
Brother, hold on. Brother, Mr. PJ, hold on. Brother Oragon, if you want to present in Swahili, please feel free to do so, and Brother PJ will interpret for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So speak in Swahili, and Brother PJ will interpret. Brother PJ, stand by to interpret, please.
Okay, thank you. Yes. My name is Uraga. I'm from DRC Congo. I came from East Congo. I came from a village called Magunda. Is in Eastern Congo. Yes. Since we have been born in our country, it was been always war and no peace since for a long time, like 30 years, in the last 30, almost 30 years ago. So, and now we have the current situation we have a current situation in North Kivu, around almost Goma, on North Kivu, and so we can just say in East Congo, all East Congo, a partir from Goma to the territory of South Kivu, Uvira, in the forest, kwa misitu mkubwa ya Sud Kivu.
That means in the forest of the South Kivu.
Yeah, kwa muda ambayo tuko nayo sahii, nchi yangu imekuwa na tatizo ambayo imevamiwa na watu ambao ni wageni na watu ambao kutoka nje na ni watu ambao ni UN, ile international community ambayo wamejificha nyuma ya nchi ambayo ni jirani ambayo iko Rwanda.
Okay, pause a bit. He's saying that currently his country, of course, is faced with the war and crisis. That is actually, to him, he says that he's affiliated with the UN mission peacekeepers or UN mission that are hiding behind their neighbors from Rwanda.
Na okay, kabla nirudi nyuma kidogo, mimi ni mwakilishi wa wazalendo wa timu ambayo kikundi ambacho ni cha wazalendo cha wananchi. We are freedom fighters.
Yeah, is a representative of the what's called the ambassadors or the patriots of peace in their countries, and they're part of freedom fighters in the international setup. So the Congolese are actually in diaspora is part of their representative in that class.
Yeah, na kutokana na hayo mambo ambayo yanaendelea huku kwetu, kufuatana na huko Masisi hiyo sehemu yote ya Goma, Nord Kivu yote, ile mambo yote ambayo inaendelea kutokana pale, wanawake wanauliwa, watoto wanauliwa, imekuwa kwa muda mrefu sana, na imeonekana kuwa watu wote wamenyamaza kimya, na nchi ambazo ni jirani wote wamenyamaza kimya. Hakuna mtu ambaye Kongo inaweza kumkimbilia kupata usaidizi kwa kupitia kwa sababu ya Umoja wa Mataifa, ile nguvu ambayo wako nayo pamoja na wale M23 ambao wanakaviwa na ile Umoja wa Mataifa. Inaonekana Kongo, inaonekana serikali ya Kongo haina nguvu kwa sababu ya ile support ambayo Umoja wa Mataifa inapatia M23 wakiwa nyuma yao.
Okay, saying that so far currently there's a lot of what's going on in the Congo area, whereby actually women are being killed and children are being killed, and Congo as a country has no one to turn to for their support or their help. The neighboring countries are actually appearing to be affiliated with the West in trying to punish or in trying to put this atrocity to the Congo. So the Congo people are like hopeless or helpless with no neighbors to turn to or friends to turn to for support. But
na ni kitu ambacho kinahuzunisha sana. Sisi kama bara ya Afrika, kama Afrika tungekuwa pamoja, Kongo ingekuwa nchi ambayo ingesaidia nchi zingine za Afrika, badala ya sisi wa Afrika sasa hivi wenye watu wengine wanaenda kufia kwa maocean huko wakitafuta njia za kwenda Ulaya. Ni wazungu ndo walifaa kukuwa na kuja Afrika na wakuje Kongo, na Kongo ingekuwa na amani, Africans wote wangekuwa sawa, na wakati wa Afrika wote wako sawa, ni wazungu wangekuwa nakuja kwetu kutafuta kazi ama kutafuta mahali ile kitu ya kutafuta kazi ama kutafuta pesa kwetu, kwa sababu tuko na kila kitu. Kongo iko na kila kitu, lakini usalama mdogo ambao unaendelea na ambao unaendelea kunyanyasa wa Afrika, unanyanyasa Mwafrika mwenzako, kama nchi kama hii ya Rwanda ambayo venye inaumiza watoto. Sasa hii ni kama milioni 20 ambayo Wakongo ambao wamekufa milioni 20.
Okay, you think that it's so also uncertain that we Africans are silent when the war is going on in Congo and Africans in Congo are suffering, and that instead now if Africa was to be united, Africa could actually be coming for Congo and there could be peace in Congo, and Africans could be going to Congo actually to get the resources available in Congo to help Africa, instead of now the whites coming to Congo to steal our resources as Africans dying out there. And it's so sad that now the neighbors are attributing to this war in Congo. But just to direct you, Brother Okwama, Oraga, unadhani kwamba vita ya Congo inahusiana na ukabila? Do you think that the war in Congo is more of tribal interline?
No, the war in Congo is not. There's nothing about tribal in Congo. What is going on there is the United Nations. They just wanted to take our minerals in a cheaper price. So when they do financing the M23 rebels, so the M23 rebels, they help them to get the cobalt, to get the casterite, to get the coltan, to get the diamonds and the first minerals, premium minerals they want. So in our facilitate tu wao kuchukua hizo minerals, that's why they are continue supporting them. Ni kama tu ni kama ni the same game wenye wamecheza kwa watu wa ndugu zetu wa Libya.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And then the last question before I know we'll have a session on Congo on this, but there's been issues reported that the Tutsi, the Hutu people from Rwanda who cross over to Congo are having problems with the Congolese people within the Congo who don't want the Tutsi, the Hutu people cross over to occupy that part of the Congo. Is that true that there's also the war between that?
No, in Congo, there is no, the war is not about tribal. It's not about the tribes. No. The war, it's about the M23, and the M23, they are not Congolese. They are people, they came from almost the border to Congo and Rwanda. So, and they have been financed by the United Nations. Everyone know that. They have been financed by United Nations because the UN ni wao wanapelekea wao silaha, wanapelekea wao maji, wanapelekea wao chakula. They give everything. And the US na hizi countries zingine za nje ambao wana support wao.
So it's basically saying that the UN has been giving all facilitation, including water, food, and everything else to the rebels that are fighting the people of Congo. So we will almost bring it to an end in this. But Brother Oraga, before we bring it to an end, I'll still give you a space a bit, but I think we'll organize as a class a session on Congo to deeply understand what's going on in Congo, because I think Nkrumah said Congo is at the heart of Africa. And I know Brother Kwame will come in to say this. So Oraga, Kwako, back to you. What do you think is you're calling for from Africans? What should Africans do, and what do you think should be the best solution for Congo?
I think now the place ile mahali yenye sahii watu imefikia ingekuwa ni nchi za Afrika kama hizi ambazo zinazunguka Kongo, nchi kama Kenya, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Burundi wanajitahidi kuunga Kongo mkono, na hizi nchi zingine za SADC kuunga Kongo mkono na kujaribu kutengeneza amani kuwa Kongo, kwa sababu in East Africa sasa Kongo iko kwa East Africa. Kongo ikiwa na amani, nchi zote za East Africa zitakuwa na biashara, zitakuwa na mambo mengi ya kufanya. Kongo kuna biashara mingi ya kufanya ambayo inaweza kumfanya Mwafrika yoyote yule ambaye yuko huku inaweza ikamsaidia, na Afrika tutajipata tuko sawa, economy zitaenda juu. Kama Afrika tunakuwa pamoja na wana support kufukuza huyu adui. Adui ni mmoja. Adui wa Kongo ni Umoja wa Mataifa. The first enemy wa Kongo ni Umoja wa Mataifa, United Nations, US, nini hizo, France, that Belgium, hiyo ndo adui, na wao wanapata vitu ambazo wanazitafuta. Kwa nini wanazipata? Kupitia Rwanda. They finance Rwanda. When they finance Rwanda, president wa Rwanda anachukua vijana, wanafanya motivate vijana, they pay people from Rwanda, and they are going to kill people in Congo so that ionekane there is still war and mambo ingine inaendelea ambayo ni alafu kwa mtandao wanasema kuwa ni wa Congo, it's tribe about Tutsi and the Congolese. The Congolese, they don't want Tutsi. No, there's nothing about that. Ni Rwanda inatuma wanajeshi wao, that is the army. The M23 ni serikali ya Rwanda inapiganisha serikali ya Kongo, wakipora mahali ya Kongo kwa njia ambayo ni sio halali, wakipeleka Ulaya.
Okay, so it's basically saying that what he calls for Congolese people is calling the neighboring countries, the SADC, the COMESA, the East African region, to actually come together and support Congo and stand with Congo. And that the war that's going on is actually the M23 from Rwanda, backed up, trained by the West to steal resources from Africa for the West. And he says that if African country can support Congo for peace, Congo has everything to offer for Africa, and that can actually develop Africa if Congo can have peace and Africans can use that. So Ndugo Oraga, we will organize for a session on Congo maybe other time. But thank you for sharing that light bit of it so that we can go back to our main conversation. Thank you very much, Ndugo Oraga.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. Brother Orangan, we will really appreciate it if you can come and do a presentation for us so that the entire session, one of the Saturdays, will be on Congo. As we all know, Congo is central to a united Africa. And it's so important that Kwame Nkrumah sent the Ghanaian army, the Ghana Armed Forces, to go to Congo at the time during the crisis to protect Patrice Lumumba. In fact, Nkrumah's instructions to the Ghana Armed Forces who went to Congo was to go and secure the life of Patrice Lumumba. Unfortunately, when they went, they decided to take orders from the UN. And as we have heard, the UN's agenda in Congo is not the liberation of the Congolese people. The same army that went to Congo, I don't know if all of us here know, were the same army that came back to Ghana and overthrew the government of Kwame Nkrumah. So there is a link there. So, brother, we'll appreciate it if we can have a session on Congo. And brother DJ, Mr. P, is here. He does a radio program, I believe, and he can also invite you onto his program so you can speak about it. Now, interestingly, Cameroon, and what is happening in Cameroon is also is in a way linked up with what you are saying, because it's as if Africans are not hearing the cries of our people in Cameroon, and in Congo. It's as if African people are not hearing your cries. And maybe this is one way for us to get the message out that you are crying for help, and Africans need to go to come to your assistance, the same way Nkrumah did. But we agree with you that if there was the African High Command, as Nkrumah had suggested, even as Idi Amin of Uganda has suggested, that some of these things require a military solution. That all this will not be happening if we had an African military that is under civilian control, under United Continental Government of Africa. So brother, we'll welcome a presentation from you. And as Brother Pigeon said, on behalf of CSG, thank you very much for coming. Stay with us if you would like to. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. DJ, Mr. P, your hand is still up. I don't know. Do you want something new to say, or was it from the previous?
I wanted to respond, brother, to something you said earlier on regarding Burkina Faso.
Can that wait?
Oh, sure. Okay. Until later on. Before I forgot, I just wanted to respond, but it's okay. Go ahead.
Right. Okay. If you forget, then respond now so you don't forget.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier on about the unification of Africa, and you're talking about. You said that Burkina Faso.
If any of you have heard whether the Sahel states, the current Sahel states of Burkina Faso, Mali, and whether or not you've heard them. Yes.
Chair, my request is also that in order for us to move the conversation also linked to the topic of today, that as members come in to contribute their contribution, let them also actually take to the key concerns of the meeting for today, on the unification that we want as a people, what you need to do there in vision, and also contribute on the historical challenges that brought these divisions, and whether technology can help us bridge the gap. So let them also tie in the topic towards the conversation.
Yes, thank you for. So, brother Mr. PJ, can you wait with your comment?
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Let's start. But let me start, and then I will invite others to come in. Brother Pigeon, can you chair? Yeah, can you chair this part?
Yes,
please?
I can chair this part.
Yeah. Let me start with my contribution, and then you chair. So others can come in now. The people of Africa and the various languages that you have mentioned, according to President Museveni of Uganda, the people of Africa, the entire continent, are actually made up of 3 different groups. Despite that whole diversity and number of 2,000 or thereabouts, actually, there are just 3 groups of people: the Bantu, the Afro-Asiatic, and the Nilotic. This is my understanding. So what it means is that Africa actually is made up of 3 different groups of people. So it's not as diverse as we think. The other point is that the unification of Africa that we want, and Nkrumah does this analysis in consensus. The unification of Africa we want is not, if we are not careful, we'll end up a unified Africa, but one that is a unification of the new colonial states. So we shall have.
Chair, you're muted. Chair, you're muted. You are still muted. We can't hear you. I don't know if I'm.
Kwame, we lost you, man. We lost you, Kwame. We lost you.
He's not muted. He's not just coming. It's just not coming through.
Yeah, maybe it's his connection. I think it's his connection. Let's have a look.
Okay, then.
You're back. You're back.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I think I've been sabotaged. This is just me, because some of this have been happening here. I think someone is interfering with my. Anyway, that's just me. As I was saying, so the unification of Africa that we want is not the unification of the neo-colonial states of Africa. We don't want the 55 new colonial governments to unite, select their own president, and then continue to run the continent, because all we will have is a new structure of domination and exploitation. Still in tandem with imperialists. So the unification that we want is a unification of the nationalities of Africa. So the list that you shared with us, all these three groups, they are all nations in their own right who have been sat on or suppressed by the new colonial states that have been carved by the colonialists and imperialists. So what we need is to hold a conference of the nationalities of Africa, where the nationalities themselves attend that conference. And because we are the nationalities of Africa, we then make a decision on where the continent should go. If we leave it to the new colonial states, it's imperialists who will determine the agenda. So going forward, the nationalities of Africa, we should help organize a conference of all the nationalities of Africa. So we sit down at the same table. I don't know where we will hold that conference, because we need a space. If there are 2,000 nationalities, for instance, then we need a space that can host 2,000 people, each person representing a nationality of Africa. Yeah, each nationality has one vote, and then we discuss the issues that are pertinent to us, and then we make decisions, and then we pass resolutions. We pass resolutions, including the kind of constitution we want for this new Africa, and then we select our leader, and then we tell the new colonial governments what we want. And then if we do that, the new colonial governments have no option but to listen. The reason being that every president is a member of a nationality. So if they get orders from their stools, their kings, or their stools, their skates, they will not refuse. They have to obey the summons of their stool or their skin. Every African leader has to subject to its traditional leader. That is just the way it is. You cannot, even if you are the president and the chief calls you, you can't say you won't come, because there are things that have to be done. And so in terms of the unification of Africa, to answer your question, Brother Pigeon, it has to be the unification of not the neo-colonial states of Africa, but the nationalities of Africa. And if we had that in Nigeria, for instance, the Hausa and the Yoruba and the Igbo should sit down on one table as the nationalities. Forget about the state of Nigeria. Sit down, let them sit down and talk as a people, as nations, and come to decisions. And then they tell the Nigerian government what they have decided. Full stop. And this will help to put in place what we need for the development of Africa. So to summarize, I'm saying that what we need is a conference of all the nationalities of Africa. A conference, some call it intelligence, a conference where we make decisions and then we decide the future of the continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for that. Let me go to Sister Ida.
I wanted to ask Brother Oregon about his the UN, because I know that they've been kicked out of Congo, but I can't quite understand. The UN is made up of a whole load of African countries who go to the Congo. Are you saying, or is maybe somebody else can tell me, does it mean that the UN is...
The UN is dominated by America, sister.
Yes, I know that. So do they have the final say in what all these African countries, when they come under the UN?
The UN is run by the security. Yes, it's the UN is, as you know, run by the Security Council, of which there are only 5 nations. So it is not a democratic organization, the UN. And America and UK, basically, they just do what they like. I mean, that's what it is. So what we see in the Congo is a stealing of resources under the banner of the UN.
Of the UN, yes. But I was wondering what all the African armies that go under the UN, They just take orders.
They take orders from. They take orders for. It's the same thing as when Nkrumah sent the Ghana Armed Forces to Congo to secure the life of Patrice Lumumba. They refused. They refused to take orders from Nkrumah, claiming that they were part of the UN force, and they took orders from the UN. That's what happened.
Chair, I'll ask due to time that we have these questions in the conference that we'll be organizing for Congo.
Okay.
So let's go to the conversation of the topic today. Yes, Edemenang Uja or UGA. Can we proceed?
Those are initials, and it is Edemenang.
Okay, sorry for that.
No worries at all. I understand it is. I understand it is a mouthful. Some names, some African names, I still cannot get down, or I'm still learning them, because before you know, there are new names you do not see. Anyways, regarding I do not know whether this would be pulling back, but when the matter of a united army came about, it actually casted my mind back to when ECOMOG was in existence. And I do not know if a lot of you know what ECOMOG is all about. I presume with the host hailing from Ghana, and I hate to be assumptive in this case, you probably know what ECOMOG was all about back then.
Comrade, I hear you, but is it in relation to this context? Because we've had a session on 1 minute.
Yes, absolutely. It is definitely in relative to it, but I presume you know what it is all about. Now, back then, when there was when there was war breaking out in Sierra Leone and Liberia, ECOMOG had sent soldiers from the different ECOWAS countries into these regions to keep the peace. And for the rest who may not know, ECOMOG stands for the Economic Community of West African States Monitoring Group. And these were peacekeepers that were sent in to help keep the peace back then, which proved to be quite successful until, of course, the controllers that be kind of impeded in the whole progress of this group. Perhaps before we talk about moving forward or trying to find something new, may I suggest we go back and visit these groups that had success back then, figure out what their success strategies were, and perhaps we can use that towards peacekeeping measures in Congo.
Okay, thank you. But that's on military angle, which is out of the tribal angle we are taking here, the nationalities. But yes, I think we also need a session on that. We did one before, but need also a session on one military angle that we can have. It was on a general conversation, but we'll come back to this on military angle. What we are asking basically today is in the aspect of the so-called nationality of tribes. For example, even in countries like Nigeria, do people still divide themselves based on their so-called nationalities? Is there intermarriages between people, or still people want to hold so much on their nationalities and they're ready to fight their fellow brothers just because they don't belong to the same nationalities? And how do we break these in order for us to achieve the unity of the continent? Because if we still have that triangles internally, of one nationality, for example, do not see eye with another nationality, and they are not ready even to intermarry or work together or even support same political ambition or even trade together, then it means we may be very far away from uniting all of them together. So this is the angle we are taking. What must be done, and how do we bring them together, that unity in their diversity? And that's the context of this conversation today. And maybe
Well,
yes.
to answer that, I am a Nigerian. I think I must have heard a fellow Nigerian brother speak. I do not know if he is still there. But to answer that, I come from southern Nigeria. I grew up in the north. In my entire time in northern Nigeria, I have seen all of these things in play. So, in as much as the dynamics behind it is, if we talk about the dynamics of the leadership and how the country was run, obviously you had a situation where it has been Fulanis and Yorubas running the country, or a Yoruba man presently with a Kanuri man from Borno State in northeastern Nigeria. Now, if we look at Peter Obi as well, who was one of the presidential candidates, he is an Igbo man, and he has got an Ibibio wife from the state which I hail from in southern Nigeria. I have seen North and South mix up, West and East mix up as well. The one thing I can tell in this case is there needs to be, just like you all had rightly mentioned, that forum where education can come about, to where everybody would be patriotic based on what is in the best interest of Nigeria.
Okay, thank you, sir.
The same way we are all striving to be pan-Africanist. So of course, when that is in play, then things would definitely begin to change.
Thank you. I'm having 7 hands up, and we are only left with the 25 minutes. So permit me to move to the next speakers, and I give you a maximum of 3 minutes to actually present your opinion in regards to the context. Don't divert away from the context of the discussion, because that now will take us more time to arrive at the positive decision for this. This class is meant on looking at our nationalities and what ways can you use actually to unite them, and what unity we envision. So kindly take at least maximum of 3 minutes to give your position in regards to that. So I'll start with Brother Joseph in that order. Go to Carrington, Abinumi, and then you go to the King, Coco, Kwame Lumumba. Then there's other 2 hands also up. So kindly, Brother Joseph, maximum of 3 minutes to share your opinion.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to support the idea from Brother Comey of a conference, but I would ask the question, where does the diaspora come in? That's one question. Secondly, in terms of solution, in terms of solution, I would look to Julius Nyerere, the late Julius Nyerere, who, at independence, in ensuring that there was a unified Tanzania, decided to have a common language, Kiswahili, notwithstanding the many tribes, and especially there was dispersed, in that piece of land where they were sparsely populated. So I would use that, and also warn against trying to hegemonize the African continent in terms of one monolithic kind of brand. We have to find a way that everyone feels Africa is a home. And in that respect, we must see it as a journey and not as a destination for us, because there is a tendency for some people to think that we can achieve that in a few months or a few years. We may not be able to achieve that in our lifetime, but we should be working on it so that it is not a quick fix.
Thank you.
Wait, I'm not finished. I think also we need to remember some of the hopes that was there when South Africa became, got their national, whatever you call it. I mean, there's a lot of talk whether did they get their liberation, but at the time in 1994, there was a lot of enthusiasm that South Africa, together with the Congo and Nigeria, can be the countries in terms of the infrastructure and the potentiality to help to, from an economic point of view, mainly, to help to really propel the continent as a force to be reckoned with. So I think we can look at both those kind of concepts or ideas and how we can look in the liberation of the continent. And I know it's this time is not enough, but I think we are heading in the right direction. But please, this thing is not going to happen tomorrow. We have to take it step by step and make sure that we don't rush into something. And let me just finally, the thing about the ECOMOG.
Brother Joseph.
No, I'm just saying, even looking at what was accepted, I don't think there is a model we could look at, because it was a Western-oriented thing. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Julius Nyerere managed to bring a Tanzania, not in lifetime. It took him very few years to have a unified Tanzania, and it was unified by language. As much as they have tribes or different dialects, but they call themselves Tanzanians, and they embrace one language, and that makes them not even to have the minority or majority war within them. But Brother Kwame, Brother Joseph has asked, where is the diaspora in that conversation? Just quickly.
Oh, yes, the diaspora is part of Africa. So if you hold an intelligence conference,
your microphone, brother, your microphone.
My microphone is on, brother.
Okay.
Sorry, brother PJ. Thank you very much. So the answer is yes. The diaspora is part of Africa. It's our sixth region. So if we hold an intelligentsia conference, a conference of all the nationalities of Africa, the diaspora must also be represented. The diaspora in Australia, in America, in South America, and in the African Caribbean, they must all be represented in that intelligentsia or that nationalities conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Carrington Kinyanjui, your 3 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Brother Pigbin, elders and sisters. So I just want to make a few comments here. First, yes, our problem has primarily been tribalism. That is my personal opinion. From the wars even of colonization, right? The Ashanti and the Fante. The Ashanti Empire would not be overrun without the use of Hausa Nigerian soldiers, right? In the case of East Africa, the Maasai and the Kikuyu, their continuous conflicts weakened them, both of them that allowed the British to overrun both nations. So yes, our problem has been primarily how to get these smaller nations to coordinate amongst themselves. And I think it is an important problem to think very hard about how to solve. Even in the present, we have these problems, and I'm sure you are familiar with the case of Ethiopia, which is in danger of collapse, state collapse. A very old nation that is in danger of collapse because of failure of coordination between communities. There are opportunities here. One, I'd like to remind everyone in the group that you do not unite with people you like or have good feelings for. All of you have family WhatsApp groups. You know these are some of the most contentious WhatsApp groups that you have, people discussing and debating each other, but nonetheless you are the same family. So I'd like us to and I know we are Pan-African here, I'd like us to think along those frequencies. People who disagree passionately with each other, but nonetheless stay together as family. And I'm not saying this because, and I'd also like to remind us of our history. I'm not saying this because out of some fantasy. I literally have ancestors buried in the Congo, besides the ancestors of Ndugu Oregon. So it's not a joke. I have more ancestors buried outside Kenya than in Kenya. So it is true that I am African. The opportunities here, Kenya, during colonization was basically had internal borders between districts. When these borders were opened up with the independence of Kenya, Kenya's GDP per capita, Kenya's trade volumes all shot up just by merely opening up borders, allowing people to move where they felt they would be most productive. Imagine the opportunities that can happen if Africa opens up her borders. But there's a warning, final point, there is a warning from Chick Anta Diop, and I will read it to you. The rational organization of African economies cannot precede the political organization of Africa. If we attempt this, and we have attempted this, and it is clearly breaking down in West Africa, ECOWAS, it is breaking down a little bit in East Africa, although the East African community is just a little bit stronger, but still very, very weak. This attempted economic integration without a clear political structure to underwrite the economic integration is bound to be a non-starter.
Thank you. That's the position we all share, and I think Brother Kwame is very happy with that.
Yes, in fact, Brother Pigeon, that is a position of consensus.
Yes.
That what we are saying is that the political unification must precede total liberation and development.
Thank you.
That's our position.
Thank you,
Abi. Can I make a quick point to the brother who spoke? Our primary problem, Brother Carrington, our primary problem is not tribalism. Our primary problem is neocolonialism. I just thought I should make that point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's a conversation.
Quick response. Sorry, no. I'm really sorry. I'm just very sorry. Why this is my perspective.
No,
sorry. I really think this is an important point to drive home. When there are external factors causing the breakdown of your family and internal factors causing the breakdown of your family, you focus on the internal factors first, because this will make it impossible for the external factors to interfere. Our brother Uragan has said very clearly that the people fighting in Goma in Eastern Congo are Rwandese. Literally, people who speak the same Tutsi language from the Wanyamulenge living west of the Rwandan border. Why are Africans used against each other? Internally, this is an internal problem which will weaken external influence.
But
I hold this position strongly.
But Carrington, I don't think that leads you to conclude that the problem is a tribal problem.
Thank you. Let's proceed to
Brother
Inumi.
Yeah, solidarity.
3 minutes, please.
Yeah, please, let me quickly apologize for tripping off the other time. I didn't know how much of my contribution you had then. Yeah, I think tribal or ethnic or whatever we want to put it, we cannot completely rule it out. Just like the last speaker and the chair was trying to have an argument, they are both saying the same thing from different perspectives. I totally agree that if we can unite internally, we will be able to fight external enemy. But in a situation where we are divided internally, the external enemy will find a way of further dividing us or turning us against ourselves, and that is literally what is happening in Africa. For example, there is unfortunate that we're still having this discussion here. In 2014, the government of Jonathan in Nigeria had a conference to restructure Nigeria. And this conference was based along the line of ethnic groups coming to table their grievances. And unlike what we normally have in Nigeria, that conference was done with a lot of determination. It was announced in short time, it was convened, it was put together, and the report was put together in such a quick succession that we were all impressed. But unfortunately, the Jonathan government, with the help of the external forces, was not allowed to have a second term in office, which Jonathan planned to implement the reports. When Jonathan planned to implement the reports of that conference, we would have been talking of a different Nigeria today if, just as at 2014, that the report of that conference was allowed to see the light of day. The report is there somewhere in Abuja, gathering dust. That is because the external forces rose in the military style against that report. That because they saw that report as a big blow to the Itatu held down country. So we need to think along this line of our tribes, our ethnics. That's the only way we can really unite. For example, my brother that spoke earlier on mentioned that one of the major contenders in the last presidential election in Nigeria, Peter Obi, is married to an Ibibio woman. And coincidentally, I spent 3 weeks in last December in Cross River State, which is the state of the Ibibio people. And within just few days of getting into that state for the first time, I see that people were divided along their ethnics. The Efiks in Calabar and the people in the neighboring Akwa Ibom states that used to be the same people. They used to be the same state, Cross River State, until Akwa Ibom was taken out of Cross River State. They were so divided along the ethnic line that the Akwa Ibom people, because a state has been created for them, they were ostracized from the whole Cross River State system. They're asking them to go to their own state to go and work. No anything they want to keep. The ethnic people want to keep everything for them. I visited the museum, the former residency of British residency that has now been turned into EFIC. The tour guide there was somehow so
Brother
myopic.
Brother Inumi, I'll have to cut you because your minutes are past 1 minute extra. So we have only 10 minutes and we need to have everybody.
Have I spent up to 3 minutes just now? So I'm just saying that because let me quickly round up. Let me quickly round up. The tour guide was so happy. She was an EFIC person. She was so happy to draw the line along. These are the EFIC people. These are the OBB. So this is things that the colonial masters have planted in everybody, and the EFIC people, they are calling their Calabar, Urban of Calabar, that he is the one. They are claiming that he is the one that signed treaty with the European, and that makes him a special Obong than other traditional ruler in that community. This how.
I'm sorry, I have to cut you short because time is not on my side. Sorry for that. Sorry for being rude, but apologies. Let me go to the King Mauli. Please, let's stick to the minutes because we will not extend this. Let's stick to the minutes. The King Mauli.
All right, greetings, family. So I will take this. Ethnicity or tribalism will always be part of us as Africans. That cannot be erased. However, in Ghana, a typical example is set over here that there's no way we can fight among each other. There's no way we'll have a civil war here in Ghana because we are intermarried. So that cannot be a problem. Now, when it comes to African countries, it's very difficult for us to have exchange programs among all the African countries. I think if the educational system can have exchange programs, more often from basic level up to the tertiary level, it will help the young ones, just as the CAF or the football industry is doing. If education or academia also does that from the basic level, we'll have that, we know each other. Because growing up myself, honestly, I didn't know much about any African country until I met friends or colleagues who come from, Nigeria and all those other countries that I got to know much about. my African countries. The exchange programs will be very, very good. Just as Kwame is saying, it will be very good with a conference if we do that such conference. But however, the question is, how will the AU, AU, be able to help to decentralize this, whatever the outcome is, into internal or other nationalities and Africa as a whole? How would the AU help in that? Are we going to hold this conference and at the end of the day, nothing really comes out of it? So these are my submission, please.
Thank you. I know Brother Kwame will answer that at the last minute because my time is running. So I'll give him time to answer that later. Brother Coco, you are 2 to 3 minutes.
Thank you, comrades. One thing is you cannot ask a thief to judge or deliver a sentence for himself. Right now, we are under the AU, which was formed to stop Dr. Nkrumah's Unity of Africa project. And we are continuing to have that lead us. Where are we going? We are not going anywhere. So moving away from there, the problem we have here is simple. It's the toxicity of the system of democracy which we have from the West. Is that competitiveness that we have there. And it's meant to look like something is happening, but there's nothing happening there because there's no representation of all of the tribes we have in Africa. If we have representation for all of our people, that problem of tribalism or whatever you call it won't be there. The thing is, you're not going to tell people to stop being Zulu and be Sotho. They can't. You cannot tell people to stop being Xhosa and be Kikuyu. You cannot. What you can do is to create a framework within which we can unite. And that's simple. It's a Pan-African philosophy, one human race. And under that, we need to educate our people. As Brother Dekim Maul has said, and Brother Renomi, they have said that already. And we need to define who we are as African people, teach this to our children, that we are African before tribe. And apart from that, there's that continental language is taking a long time to happen. Many thanks.
Thank you, Brother Coco. Let me go to Brother Kwame Lumumba. You are, of course, 2 to 3 minutes, please. Kwame Lumumba. Can you proceed, Kwame Lumumba? You are muting yourself, and then you are also at the same time unmuting yourself. So can you proceed?
Brother, go to Marie if he's not ready yet. Go to Marie.
Yes, Kwame Lumumba.
Can you hear me?
Yes, 2 to 3 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was having difficulties getting in there. I just want to be very brief. I have a business background and a military background, and I've listened to everything that we've talked about, and you can distill things down very plainly. In order to get everybody on board across the continent, I don't care what tribe you are, is we have to have their hearts, we have to have their minds, and we have to have their ears. If we don't control the message, we have nothing. We have to be able to get people to come on board. So we have to control the airways, and we have to be pragmatic about, being able to feed our people, because if a person's hungry, they can't hear your message. So we have to start doing things that are pragmatic. And from a military perspective, from a military background, professional officer perspective, we have to do things that are focused on current, because somebody mentioned the fact that we may not live to see some of the things that we want to happen, and that's true. Those are called current operations. But at the same time, we need to have a core of people that are focused on our young people going to the next level. Those are called future operations. And that's what I was mentioning in some of the notes that I was typing. And to that end, I'm working on a presentation that will allow me to present these things in a more coherent manner, because we absolutely can unite, but we have to use the low-hanging fruit that we can capture right away. And I truly believe that we're not leveraging our resources to the best of our ability to include the diaspora that has a lot of tangible skills that we can put to use right now. So to say, oh, well, we'll get around to doing that, you know, later on, that's self-defeating. And I'm just going to leave it at that point because I want to put together a presentation and I think it'll make much better sense.
Okay, thank you very much. I know people are asking of time. Some of you might be at 9 p.m. Some of us are at already 12. It's past midnight. Some are going to almost 1 a.m. So that's the difference. So Marie, please come in.
Okay, thanks a lot, Nobles. I'm going to say two things. One is common purpose, and that's the basis on which I don't know what you want to call them, the Europeans have replicated the agenda over and over again to our detriment. Their default is that common purpose, right? Which is to survive as a minority amongst us. Yeah. Number two, okay, right, I put something up in the chat about saying the home is the first classroom. Now, I come from a background where, you know, I have Congolese nephews and nieces, Nigerian, Ghanaian, South African, etc. When we have family functions, right, and we group together, all right, the regions that we come from do not have any say. We have one code, and that is of respect. Respect amongst the different levels of generation, respect amongst the younger ones, etc. And especially if the youths, any one of them break that code, they will get pulled up by any one of us. I can remember my son forgetting his manners, right? And his Igbo auntie was around and she tore him to pieces, right? And I stood, and I was tired that day, and I stood there and I listened to her and I looked at him, physically straightened himself, and I said, thank God, right? Because I was so tired. Thank God she got there first. Yeah, so that's what, you know, I have to say, right? Family,
okay, thank you. Thank
right?
you. Thank you. Of course, you are proposing something good. We need to do that intermarriages. It's very important. Mr. P, 1 or 2 minutes, then Brother Kwame will be finishing for us.
Yeah, I should be able to say this within a minute very quickly. I'm from multiple tribes. I'm Fanti. I'm also Bassa, and I'm also Jola. My girlfriend, she is Wolof and Mandinka. Now, at the end of the day, this is how I see things. And I start each and every one of my radio shows by saying, I don't really care which tribe you're from. I don't care which nation you're from. I don't care if you're from the diaspora or if you're from an island. We are all Africans. Therefore, it's Africa first. That comes before anything else. So that's what I want to say on that. The reason why we're having these issues, I believe, among tribes, among nations, among islands and diaspora, etc. A lot of it is ignorance. The cure for ignorance is education. So we need to look at education regarding this issue. The second thing I just wanted to touch on very quickly to say, Kwame, you mentioned about a conference. I can say to you and confirm there is a conference in the making. I can't say too much at the moment, yeah, but there will be a conference, a Pan-African conference this year. And I'm done.
Thank you. Brother Kwame, back to you so that we can close.
Yeah, so the time is 9 o'clock. We are very jealous of our time. We start on time. Even if we don't start on time, we make sure we finish on time. The time is 9, and I would like to bring this meeting to a formal close. Thank you for coming. Do join us if you can on Thursday when we discuss philosophy and ideology. Thank you very much, everyone, and good night.